And we're doing this again, playing Holy Priest Destruction Warlock into Discipline Arms Warrior. From the start, Warrior leaps to stop the gateway. He immediately uses Stormbolt to shut down the Warlock. I use Chastise to buy some time. Priest pops Dark Archangel and I rush towards him to fear and stop his damage. Warrior intervenes and I manage to fear both of them while also interrupting the mind games. Priest is impatient and trinkets the fear. Meanwhile, Warlock finally manages to place his gateway and repositions on top of the platform. I stun the Priest, I juke mind games on the Warrior and then decide to go for the Priest since he's just sitting in the open spamming purges. Warlock connects with one Chaos Bolt and calls down the Infernal. Priest is sitting in stun while I cast Mind Games, Holy Fire, Smite and Shadow or Death to finish him off. His only option here was to either dispel the Mind Games, which he did but costed him one global cooldown, or try to heal through the Mind Games, which at that point would have had the same result. Moving on to the next fight, we're up against Holy Paladin and Enhancement Shaman, which is a nightmare to face as a Destruction Warlock. I go up through the middle of the bridge to bait the Shaman into hitting me and buy time for Warlock to place his teleport and gateway. I then go back and forth close to his Paladin, making them think I want to fear. This triggers a response and Shaman drops Tremor Totem, which I then target and destroy. Shaman then makes a swap to the Warlock with Cap Totem and pops his cooldown. I then fear both of them with Tremor out of the way. His cooldowns go to waste while we retreat to a favorable position. We then bait them to come to the middle of the bridge. Warlock uses double coil and now we can make something happen. I managed to stun the Paladin right before the grounding totem. Warlock drops his Infernal as well. I choose to wait for the grounding totem to fade away because for some reason I don't see it at that time. I start casting Mind Games because I know grounding is about to fade. I manage to land the Mind Games and Chaos Bolt also connects to the Paladin, which drops him low. I continue to spam damage while Shaman is not upstairs to assist his Paladin. He has a few more seconds of Divine Protection, he is still very low and we manage to force the Divine Shield. I am struggling to cast Mass Dispel for whatever reasons. I manage to remove the Divine Shield right before the Door of Shadows disorient. Paladin is back to full HP and comes back upstairs. They overlap Hex with Hammer of Justice and decide to trinket both. Paladin then uses Aura Mastery and tries to use Repentance on me. Meanwhile, one Chaos Bolt hits him in the face. While I was waiting for Stun DR to reset, I pop Apotheosis to reset Chastise and stun the Paladin while a second Chaos Bolt is flying towards him. Game over. Subscribe. Coming up next, Discipline Priest and Balanced Druid. Nothing special in the opener. Warlock places his portal and gateway, then pushes in with a double Mortal Coil. I sprint towards the Priest, stunning the Druid along the way. Infernal drops, stunning the Priest. Druid uses Solar Beam on Warlock to disrupt the setup. I manage to fear the Priest, and after that I get Cycloned. I decide not to trinket as we don't have big momentum and there is no real threat. Warlock is chasing the Priest having Dark Soul up. Priest is still sitting above 60% HP. I get out of Cyclone. I pop Apotheosis to reset my Chastise and have the stun ready. Priest tries to cast Shadow Mend but gets spell locked. I follow up with a stun to make sure he doesn't use Holy School or to force trinket, and unfortunately for them he gets greedy and decides not to trinket. I follow up with a Shadow or Death and Mind Games, but Chaos Bolt is already flying and I don't even finish the Mind Games cast. Bye bye. Holy Paladin Destruction Warlock. From the start we get caught by a Cataclysm that could have been avoided. I stun the Warlock to start mounting up some pressure. I follow up with Mind Games since Paladin already used Dispel. Stun ends before second Chaos Bolt connects and enemy Warlock presses Nether Ward, which causes the Chaos Bolt to be reflected. I immediately dispel the Nether Ward. The enemy Warlock uses Havoc. and by the time I use Greater Fate, he already casts Mortal Coil and we both get stuck in CC. Warlock tries to fear me, but Mortal Coil gets me out of range. My Warlock gets into a Hammer of Justice, I manage to dispel it, and now the enemy team is sitting in a double Mortal Coil. I grip the Warlock to me, hoping we can do a setup on the enemy Warlock, but this was a mistake as we didn't have anything to follow up that Mortal Coil. Enemy Warlock teleports to a safe location and the fight basically resets. We need to catch Paladin in a bad position so we can make a swap and at least force Divine Shield. Warlock gets dragged in the middle of the arena and I constantly LOS him. They have zero pressure right now. My Warlock reflects a fear on the enemy Warlock and lands a Chaos Bolt, but outside of that we have no real pressure either. At this point we are just trying to play safe near the pillar, but the enemy Warlock summons Infernal on top of us, stunning us in the process, and he immediately uses Soul Shape to get in our line of sight. I use Greater Fate, avoiding the Mortal Coil, and then fear the Warlock, but he trinkets, knowing he can do a lot of damage. The Paladin also rushes in and lands a Hammer of Justice on my Warlock, while I still have 1 second cooldown on this spell. I also get hit by fear, and we are now in a bad position. After getting hit by 1 Chaos Bolt, Warlock manages to spell lock the second Chaos Bolt, and by doing this he manages to keep himself alive. I stun the Warlock, trying to create some counter pressure since my Warlock also has Dark Soul up. Immediately after this my Warlock follows up with double Mortal Coil, and we can finally make a switch to the Paladin. Keep in mind that Paladin is playing Relentless instead of Trinket. I reset my stun by using Apotheosis and stun the Paladin while he drops to 30% HP. Once I start casting Mind Games, he is forced to use Divine Shield, but because Warlock is not able to see me, I immediately cancel and remove his Divine Shield with Mass Dispel. I go back to casting Mind Games, followed by Shadow Word Pain, and Warlock also teleports to help finish the Paladin. In a matter of seconds we managed to turn a lose into a win, and that was all because of one good spell lock. Our next and final fight is against Resto Druid and Arms Warrior. Warrior immediately rushes in and gets stopped by Chastise. Warlock teleports and welcomes the Warrior with an Infernal stun. I purge the Warrior and now start spamming damage, hopefully to force Druid out of stealth. Druid Rake stuns the Warlock and moves towards me, allowing me to fear him without a sweat. By the time I start casting Mind Games, Warrior is already at 50%, dropping even lower. Right after Mind Games lands, Warrior uses Spell Reflect, and this saves his life as Druid is still sitting in fear. Druid is still forced to Trinket and overgrow his Warrior, while Warrior also used Rallying Cry. A lot of cooldowns have been forced, so far so good. Warlock uses double Mortal Coil and I prepare for another stun by using Apotheosis. Druid uses Shadow Melt and avoids the Mortal Coil, well played by the Druid. He then Rake stuns me, and in order to not get cycloned in a critical moment, I use Will to Survive to get out of stun and use Chastise on the Druid. Warlock also taps the Druid with 1 Chaos Bolt, forcing him to stay behind pillar, while I try to keep Warlock's health bar stable. Warrior's pressure is getting higher and higher, and we are kind of running out of cooldowns. I grip the Warlock after he gets stunned by Stormbolt. Druid leaps to me, and thinking that he might stun and cyclone me, I immediately use Greater Fate to avoid a dangerous situation. Druid doesn't fall for that, and I wasted Greater Fate, falling behind with another cooldown. I purge the Warrior while also getting away from the Druid, since Cyclone has a short range. I cast Mind Games and Chastise on the Warrior, but Mind Games gets immediately dispelled. After stun ends, Warrior uses Spell Reflect, but unfortunately for him, I eat the Spell Reflect with Holy Fire, while he eats a full Chaos Bolt to his face, dropping him dangerously low. I follow up with a Shadow Word Death and Shadow Word Pain, and the Warrior falls. I really hope you enjoyed the games and the commentaries explaining all my actions every step of the way. If you like this format, please let me know in the commentary section below. Thank you for watching and have a PvP day.